Everyone. Welcome to the September meeting of the Lower Makefield Township Ad Hoc Property Committee. My name is Dennis Stedman. I'm the chair of that committee. We have three other committee members on. That's four, so committee members. So we have a quorum, and I see one of our Board of Supervisors liaisons, Fred Weiss, is also on. I'm expecting our secretary and another member or two to be joining shortly. So thank you for tuning in tonight. I'm going to share my screen to help guide the discussion. Can you see that screen?
Yep.
Others? Okay, thank you. Our agenda tonight is pretty straightforward. We're going to have approval of minutes. We're going to need to level set since the committee did not meet in July and August, and our June meeting was we did not have a quorum. So I want to kind of catch up and go back to the June time frame and be sure we're all on the same page. We'll talk about development of a master plan and an RFP process. We'll have, of course, public comment, and we'll close up with action items. Since our secretary Bet is not on, I'm going
Yes,
to.
I am.
Oh, you are. I'm sorry. I did not see you there.
My
Bet.
apologies for being late.
Okay. Well, in that case, Bet, welcome. And the floor is yours for item 2, approval of the minutes.
Yes, as we were reminded that there are 2 sets of minutes that still need to be approved. March 24th, which were not approved because we didn't have a quorum at the June meeting, and the June 16th summary of the meeting. I guess I'm not quite sure if that was an official meeting, but we did have some information. So I'll entertain a motion for March 24th.
So moved.
Seconded.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Any objections? Abstentions? Okay. And the June 16th meeting, entertain a motion for approval.
Since it wasn't really an official meeting, I don't think we have official minutes to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no meeting minutes to approve without a quorum.
All right, then good. We don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. And
Okay, I'm done.
Very good. Thank you, Bet.
Sure.
And I'm remiss to mention right up front to welcome the newest member of this committee, Joe Camarata. Joe is the representative on this committee from the Lower Makefield Historical Commission, and James Nice was our representative from that commission. James did an excellent job. His circumstance has changed, and he's no longer able to serve, but we're very fortunate that Joe, as the chairman, has great interest and is willing to step up and contribute. Joe, welcome, and you want to give a little a thumbnail introduction or hello?
I just would like to say, first of all, thank you, Dennis. Just like to say hello. As Dennis said, I'm the chairman of the Historical Commission. I've been on the Historical Commission of Lower Makefield Township for 3 years now. It's been also historical preservation is something that I'm very passionate about. And, when we had the chance to provide some historical information for your initial report, that most of that effort was led by Dr. Helen Hines, but I was also able to go out and look at other, farmsteads in the area in Bucks County and how they were on the National Register and what was important in order to get them onto the National Register. So I'm really happy to be here and hope to make a solid contribution.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. And I think it's appropriate at this time just to make mention of the fact that the way the Board of Supervisors constructed this this committee, I think was wise. We have some necessary and required kind of expertise. One is that is the seat that Joe is holding, which is someone from the Historical Commission. Another seat that is required is a commercial real estate professional. We have Jim Scott on the call and on the committee who fits that role. We also need a finance project management type of professional on the committee, and certainly John Mohan fits that role beautifully and holds down that kind of requirement. And myself as an agriculturalist on the committee, I think we have a good breadth of expertise and talent that we can draw upon. So I appreciate all the committee members being available tonight. Let's jump into this, what I've called the level set from the June meeting, just to be sure we're all on the same page. As you recall, the recommendations, there were 3 fundamental principles that were used to guide the potential use options that the committee reviewed or considered. The top priorities were agriculture at the Patterson Farm. That is, it is preserved farmland, and agriculture has to remain there and be a critical role. Preservation of the buildings for use by the township and the community is a priority, and that we have to define a purpose and a use for each building in order to keep those buildings alive. And that was kind of the high level of those sets of recommendations. And we wanted to have our decision making balanced on a 3-legged stool of preservation of history and agriculture. Obviously, community use and support is critical, and fiscal responsibility. It led to this summary of recommendations, and I'm just going to focus on the very first 2 here, which is where we are today. We recommended the establishment of a Patterson Farm Oversight Board to help guide the planning and management, and the second was to develop a Patterson Farm Master Plan. The Board of Supervisors, in considering our recommendations, moved forward with and accepted the recommendation of developing a master plan. They have earmarked up to $300,000 for the development of that master plan. I want to say right now, it would be my goal to not come close to that expenditure level. I would like to see to it that we do a quality job for less than that, but we appreciate the confidence and the resources that the township are providing. So they moved to fund a master plan to that $300,000, as I say, including an RFP for remediation of soils and around the building at Satterswaite House. And the Board of Supervisors decided that rather than create an oversight board at this point, that this ad hoc committee oversee that master plan. So there's a slight deviation from the recommendations, but I think this committee is in a good position to move forward as requested. So at this point, we want to begin that master plan development. That we tried to kick off in June, the June 16th meeting. As we've mentioned, there was not a quorum. Fred, Charles, Beth, and Jim were there. They had a productive conversation with Supervisor Wise. And so this is just the summary of that June meeting, which is also up in the public domain for viewing before we kick off this session. Yes, 300,000 are earmarked. The committee's first step is to develop an RFP, and that we would request professional input, including detailed engineering studies and cost estimates, as part of that RFP process. Jim will talk to this a bit later. As we said in June, the RFP process fits into Jim Scott's wheelhouse of his expertise, and he envisioned that it would require input from multiple vendors. Supervisor Weiss made clear he did not want to, the supervisors don't want to limit or constrain the master plan, and recognizes it's a large assignment and did not want to tie hands. So it was made clear that, everything is on the table. Zoning constraints, any constraints, we should look at as flexible if need be. The township staff is available to us. That was made clear in June, and Supervisor Weiss also made clear that this committee is to develop a master plan. It's not to implement that plan. Of course, that plan has to be approved by the township, and implementation will be up to the oversight board, which was recommended when and if that oversight board is formed. So we're not talking about the implementation at this stage, but the development. But we do know that a quality master plan has to be of a detailed nature so it can be implemented. Can't just be pie in the sky, if you will. So that's how we leveled off in our last meeting in June. I would remind, as we talk about development of a master plan, the vision for Patterson Farm that was included in the report of recommendations in March, which you can see here, which is among the highways and suburban neighborhoods. The Patterson Farm is a 220-acre oasis of farmland, trees, ponds, wildlife, and home to 2 historical Pennsylvania Quaker farmsteads that are utilized by the community for producing food, art, inspirational, and educational opportunities. While at the same time, the rich soil remains continuously productive as it has for the past 300 years. That was the broad vision statement, and those kinds of broad statements are maybe easier to make than boiling that down to an executable plan, which is the charge. So at this juncture, I want to turn it over to Jim Scott to talk about the master planning process, RFP process, and anything else. So Joe, I see you have a question.
I do have a question, Dennis. It's a follow-up to a discussion that we had at the Historical Commission yesterday evening. We were talking with Supervisor Grenier about this. You mentioned RFP, you mentioned the whole remediation issue, and a couple of times you have RFPs plural in here. Is there an RFP for the master plan and then a separate RFP for the remediation issue? Is that how you see it? And is there other RFPs that need to be, or is it just one RFP?
Right now, we're focused on the RFP for the master plan.
Right.
And part of what this committee will decide and discuss is the level of detail that master plan will go down to in terms of individual buildings, cost estimates for remediation, use, etc. So, and I know Jim and I discussed this, but the master plan has to be a broad vision, and at the same time include engineering studies, specific cost estimates for specific buildings for specific uses. So it's a very comprehensive plan is what we're envisioning.
Okay.
Does that answer it, Joe?
I believe so. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before I turn this over to Jim? If not, Jim, the floor is yours. I can control the slides if you'd like. I think you're on mute, Jim.
All right, a little bit better. All right. So, and Joe, this is kind of a good segue from your comment. So from where we left off last year, there was, called the vision statement of all the different priorities that the township would like to address, different buildings, so forth. So the master plan becomes putting that on paper, making it a little bit more concrete, adding detail to it. So it goes from the conceptual to more of a three-dimensional type document that's available for review. It shows where it's going, not overnight, but the longer term plan, both for the overall site as well as the individual buildings. So Dennis, probably best bet is to jump ahead to the RFP slide. So the RFP is request for proposal. So this is really a collection of proposals as I see it. So for something like the remediation, Joe, you had mentioned, yes, that's something we'll get cost for, just to have as a placeholder. And that we can bid out and get some pricing on that. The larger picture, though, is to bring in some engineering expertise as far as overall site work, getting a better sense of where utilities exist, where they may be needed given future uses of these buildings, looking at the impact of just the roads and circulation, making sure there's appropriate ingress and egress out of the site, appropriate parking for different buildings, so that we're not, and we, meaning the township over the long haul, not just, dealing with building by building, but just looking holistically where this is going. So this will ultimately, I think, require a number of different vendors, a lot on the engineering side, some also on the construction side, where there's been recommendations on various concepts for preservation. And I think some of the goal is just to understand what those costs are. Right now, we've relied on, for lack of better words, favors from some vendors to give us some direction on what costs may be. But this is good opportunity with the budget to support it, is to get some detail on what some of these different ambitions will cost. And again, goal is not to move ahead or decide the final scope of work. It's simply to get a baseline on what some of these different components are going to cost. So there's a lot of different things in the master plan and in the vision statement. We're just trying to add some detail to it. So when that goes back to the Board of Supervisors, they have some concrete information that's actionable for them to make decisions on. Questions?
Jim, the costs for things like utilities, parking, et cetera, is going to depend a lot on the use of the building.
Correct.
If I recall correctly, especially with the Satterthwaite Farm, that the committee did not make any recommendations for the use of those buildings. Did I recall that correctly?
The Satterthwaite House. Is that what you said?
Right. And well, the farm as a whole, there was no.
The recommendation was the Satterthwaite barn be used by the farmer, by the farming tenant, as for storage of equipment and straw and that type of thing. That would require some improvements to that barn to see to it that it has the weight bearing capacities. The Satterthwaite house was still to be determined in terms of a use.
Right.
There's still much debate there.
So when does the potential uses fall into the work that we're going to do? Because as I said, whatever the use is determined is going to drive a lot of these other requirements.
Agreed. So I think part of that is that there's going to be a range, and I don't think the concept is to pick one or the other, but just to get a better understanding what the spectrum is. So for instance, for the satellite, it was, could it be a office space for the township?
Okay.
And the answer is sure, it could be anything. But if we could obtain a ballpark cost of what that would lead to, this is our chance to gather that accurate cost.
Okay. So you see, maybe some scenarios depending upon potential uses, then what the
Correct. Because part of the difficulty is it's difficult to determine the end use without any concept whatsoever of cost.
Exactly. No, you're right.
So again, it's to establish some sort of spectrum where if one end of the spectrum is a stabilization, structurally,
Mhm.
and then maybe see where it goes from there. That's one spectrum. If the other was take it all the way to a finished office space, or some type of other use where we're all of a sudden getting into utilities and restrooms and goes far beyond the structure, just having an understanding what that cost is.
Okay. Okay. Understand.
In the master plan also, in looking at and trying to determine best uses, some of those will be nearer term and some of those will be longer term, right? It's not like the project will be undertaken and implemented and all of a sudden a 10-year vision happens in a couple years. So things are evolve. Some things will evolve more slowly, other things more quickly, depending upon other variables within the plan. If this happens, then if A and B happens, then C can't. But if B never happens, maybe C is never achieved, right? So there's going to be that dynamic in any long-term plan. Oops, sorry. Jim, did you want to comment on any other things or?
Sure. So some of it is in this side, I don't think is this meeting, but I think it will become, task for the committee to go into some of the various recommendations and to some extent just agree, what the scope of work is. We're going to ask a vendor to quote, and some of that's half the job. It's, much be like if you ask 3 contractors to renovate your kitchen, they can come back with 3 very different numbers if they make different assumptions on what they're going to do. So some of that is when we request these proposals for services, it's important that we just put some thought into what exactly we're requesting. To the extent multiple bids are required, making sure it's a clear scope where everyone's bidding an apples to apples project. And just take again, look at the site holistically, where if we were talking about any type of roadway improvements required, looking at what's required for today's use, but also down the road, so that the township's not having to redo anything they've already spent money on. So it's about being efficient with dollars and resources here. This is also a great time to look at the times, in phases, like you mentioned, Dennis. So not everything's going to happen overnight, but a good chance to lay things out, over the longer time horizon.
we've discussed and are looking at then getting professional project management support in developing the RFP, in addition to tapping into township staff, even though they're very hectic right now. This committee can provide guidance, but our thinking is that we need more professional project management to help define the correct details of an RFP in a quality way. Let me just, I thought I had another, yes. We're fortunate to have in the community some real high level expertise, and I would propose that we hire the professional services of Jennifer Stark. She's a vice president of a Vision Young to help to be the project management of this RFP development. The better the RFP, the better the product is going to be, obviously. Many in the township know Jennifer, maybe, and I think many on this call do as well. She's an experienced architect with a master's in historical preservation and a lot of experience and passion in that regard. She's an LMT resident, and she currently serves on the Historical Architectural Review Board. She is already familiar with Patterson Farm and the issues surrounding it. And based on recent conversations, she's willing and available to prepare a proposal to play that role in helping guide the RFP development by this committee. In full disclosure, Jim Scott works for the same firm of Vision Young in Philadelphia. It's a very large commercial firm in a very different area than Jennifer, a different department. And I think we're fortunate to be able to tap that kind of expertise in our local community. So we do not have a proposal yet from Jennifer to act on or to consider in detail, but I would like the committee to discuss if you think that this is a direction we want to go in the development of the RFP. I'll open it up to the committee.
Dennis, I would add where I see Jennifer providing some value is not in necessarily relying on her to provide answers, but I think she'd be a great resource to ask us some of the right questions, foster some conversation to make sure that all the right components will be included in the various RFPs and the finished product. The other great role I think she can play is understanding the appropriate vendors. So it's one thing to say we need to receive quotes on some type of the lead paint remediation, but I personally wouldn't know who to call. She'll have a wealth of relationships within the construction and professional industry. So we'll be a great source just to again rely on some of those relationships and networking to connect us with the appropriate vendors for each task.
That's a good point. She in discussing in a broad sense the RFP project, she quickly said that she knows of the top handful of companies that should receive this RFP and knows how to knows those organizations and where to direct it. So that's an excellent point.
I think it's great to pull in somebody with the expertise that we need. Someone who has the experience, who has historic preservation experience as well. And that's just going to make our job easier and this process to move more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to second that. I really appreciate her historic preservation experience. You know, some of the comments in the initial report, when I read through some of the work the other firms had done, I didn't feel there was enough attention being paid to the historical significance of the buildings. And I'm sure with Jennifer, you know, leading this process, we'll have firms that know how to work on historic buildings.
Okay.
Do we have a ballpark as to how long this will take?
I do not. I do not. I'd expect that to be in her initial proposal, which she's agreed to prepare, but I don't have a timing.
Okay,
I would guess it's a matter of months.
for the RFP?
The RFP, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a collection of work product from different vendors. So, you know, even if we were to make those requests today, not everything will come back immediately. So it could be several weeks to get certain vendors even out to the site, and another few weeks for them to produce a report.
Yeah, I'm sorry. How long did you say? I missed it, Jim. I'm sorry.
I was saying, I would expect this to be a number of months, not to receive something from Jennifer, but just the end goal of the collection of various reports from different vendors.
Yeah, so I guess there's how long we think the RFP development before we spit out, and then how long we're giving the vendors to respond. Because in the RFP, basically you outline when they have to respond by, right? So
correct, and I think that, you know, there will be different tasks will be different timelines.
You mean within the RFP?
Correct. So the RFP just being request for proposals, that's Jennifer would
Right.
help us assemble that.
Correct. So should we say that's a month, 2 months, or what are we? And then within the RFP, when it's developed, it'll give the timeline for the vendors to respond. And if we want to break that out into multiple sections with different due dates, I guess we can do that too. But they're probably, I think Betty, you're kind of asking like where are we? We're kind of going down the lane. When do we want to send the RFP out? And I guess that's how long it would take us to put the proposal together, or to put the request for proposal together, excuse me. So what do we think?
I would think we're you know, probably another meeting to walk through it and define what the scope is we're even asking. So again, it's a request. So we have to define what we're asking.
True. All right, so 2 months probably to put the RFP together, and then probably.
I think that's in the right range.
Yeah, and then I think, however, depending on what the RFP, the scope of the RFP will kind of probably outline how long we're going to give vendors to respond.
Correct.
So maybe we leave that as the TBD section.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the RFP is going to have multiple components. So I think Jim's trying to describe it's not a single. One of the things Jennifer can do is put that bouquet together. There's going to be a lot of pieces, and it'll be one bouquet when it's over, but each stem comes in and has to be, you know, with somewhat different timing and managed. But
yeah, and then every vendor
yeah.
might not bid on every section as well.
Oh, right.
Does the township need to review the RFP before it's issued?
I don't have a specific answer to that question. I think that would be a judgment call on the township's part. That's one of the areas I think where we would work with township management to, you know, we're going to want their review of the RFP before it goes out in terms of just their input, you know, like from Jim Majewski and things. It's just, you know, because he's going to have experience in this same area. So
yeah, if we're talking timeline, we just need to factor that in, because I'm sure, you know, people take time off and things like that. So if we're talking 2 months, we're in November, all of a sudden it's Thanksgiving, and then it's, you know, the winter holidays, and next thing you know, it's Labor Day, and you know, we've lost a year. So I just think we need to make sure that we try to factor that timing in.
Sure. Yeah, and to be clear, we don't have timing now. I mean, we're talking in generalities. But I'm hearing a general positive reaction, favorable reaction to receiving this proposal. I think when we receive it, I'll circulate it to the committee, and we can discuss and bounce back and forth comments on and review of that proposal. I think that's our key next step. Other discussions on this topic before we kind of move on, which is we need public comments and action items and future schedules, or we can discuss anything we want.
My only question is this is including Slack House, correct? Or is this just Patterson?
This is just Patterson.
Okay.
We're not including the Slack House.
Okay.
Yeah. There's been no Board of Supervisors reaction, formal reaction to the recommendations on the Slack House.
Dennis.
Other topics, other business, other things we want to discuss. Hearing none, I'd ask our administrator, or do we have any public comments?
No further public comment at this time.
Very good, thank you. Well, the action items and assignments seem pretty straightforward, but you want to
I
give it
believe
your
the
version?
action item is to get a proposal from Ms. Slack.
Right. And
We're still meeting once a month.
We're still meeting once a month. We do have a meeting on our next meeting. Our October meeting is on the township calendar. And you should all have that in your calendars at this point, I believe. Let me just.
13th.
Is it October 13th? Yes. October 13th. What we've gone to a cadence targeting that second Thursday of the month. So as you're managing your calendars, just try to keep that in mind. Katie hasn't scheduled anything past October 13th, but her target is that second second Thursday at this time. Is that any issues for anyone on the 13th? Is that something you think we can pull together?
Dennis, I'll be on vacation that week, but I'll try to join.
Okay.
But I'm not sure.
Me too.
That happens. That happens. Okay.
Me too. I'll be away.
All right. We'll try to we'll try to do what we can via email and things, making progress.
We're going to
between
keep it
now
a
and
Zoom.
then. That's a question for this committee. I'm happy keeping it at Zoom. I think it gives everyone the flexibility to just stay at home and dial in and not from anywhere. But what's the committee's sense?
I like Zoom in case I'm out of town. I can travel and I can still call in.
Yeah.
Fred, supervisor wise, any comments that you want to offer the committee at this juncture?
I think you guys are off to a great start. The board really looking forward to getting this RFP developed so we can actually get something concrete. One of I think the guidelines that the board that you should know is that the township will be, this is a township project. We don't plan to sell or lease the unfinished product, and send it out to a third party to develop. So this is going to be community directed, township directed plan.
Right.
The community will determine what the best use will be and how we're going to spend our money to get the best possible product. Because once we build it, we're going to need the best use to maintain it in perpetuity. So that's the basic will of the board at this point.
Right.
The rest is up to you guys.
It's township property, and it'll be township resources and money that go into it, and we get that.
Right. And
Okay.
you have a lot of people that are willing to help you, both professional and volunteer. So tap into all those resources, and
Right.
hopefully we'll get this RFP out either by December or January.
Right. I think that's probably a reasonable expectation, but let's we'll do it as fast as we can, do it in a quality way. That'll be the guidance. But I'm optimistic with the kind of professional help that we can put out a good product in a timely way. But it will require a lot of work by this committee, because, as I think Jim said, the professional guidance will be asking a lot of questions that we may not have thought of. They're not answering those questions; they're asking them. So it's going to be up to this committee to formulate the answers, the responses. So I expect it could be a pretty busy time. All right.
Stuff.
Anything else? If not, Pet.
Hey, Sunday's art on the farm. Anybody's welcome.
Oh,
I'll just put that out there.
Art on the farm.
Art
All
on
right.
the farm, 10 to 5. Come on by.
All right.
And with that, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Art and farm always go together. We have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, all in favor? Very good. Committee, thank you so much. I appreciate the brevity. It's good to get this done in 45 minutes. Well done.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.